Hi grade 6s, welcome back to another lesson of music history. Before we get to the main stuff of what I want us to learn, I want us to first look at an era that is rarely spoken of. So we've learnt about a little bit about the Baroque era, but I want to take us back not to the Renaissance era, which was before the Baroque era, but to the one before that, where no one knows what was really going on there. Okay, we do know what was going on, but so many things were lost just because of people not valuing certain things. So we're going to go back all the way to the Dark Ages, also known as the Medieval Ages or the Middle Ages. So the Dark Ages, Middle Ages, or the Medieval era. Okay, and this was really a time where there was like a lot of knights. When you hear the medieval knights of yore, this was kind of there. But this was a time where there were definitely advancements, but a lot of stuff was lost. It was between the 5th and 14th centuries. 1400 is right where the Renaissance era was beginning. And it was the time between the fall of the Roman Empire and the beginning of the Italian Renaissance. So the Renaissance means rebirth of the mind, and that was in the Renaissance era, yeah? And so the reason it's called the Dark Ages is because it refers to the lack of culture and advancement in Europe. Historians estimate that about 90% of Greek and Roman knowledge was lost in that time. And for a couple of reasons. The first reason was just the manner in which things were stored. Right now, we store things on the internet. So even years from now, if 200 years from now, it'll be easy to refine what we were talking about. Whatever we were documenting would be so easy to find because it's on the internet, it's in the cloud. But back then, they were writing all this stuff on papyrus. And so what would happen is papyrus would degrade and it would rot. And so people would often have to replicate what was written on papyrus onto another piece of papyrus, onto another piece of papyrus, until eventually Johann Gutenberg came up with a printing press and now it was easier to replicate. But just the sheer nature of how things were recorded on the papyrus, you'd find things rotting and disintegrating due to the cold and humid climates of Europe. So whether it was winter, whether the summer came out, the papyrus would eventually disintegrate. So a lot of knowledge was literally lost because of careless methods of preservation, careless methods of preserving the documents. Okay. The second reason it was lost is one of the most important reasons that we're in school, which was the lack of literacy. People were just not able to read and write. So even when you went to church, you wouldn't really know how to read what the priest was preaching, but you'd rely on what he was telling you because you as a peasant were not able to read and write. So the fact that now our documents are disintegrating and there are not that many people to replicate them, the people who were usually a bit smarter were the monks and they had those literacy abilities. The fact that you didn't have a lot of people doing that meant we couldn't really preserve it well. The next reason was there was so much political instability. This was the Dark Ages, but it was also a brutal time in the history of the earth. And everyone was just interested in gaining political dominance and expanding their territories. So as a barbarian, the last thing that's going to interest you is poetry and art. You are more interested in pillaging and plundering. So barbarians came, warriors came, and they just wanted to destroy everything around them. So libraries, art, cultural institutions, all of them went away in the dust as they were burnt down and taken to the ground by all these barbarians. So a lot of manuscripts, a lot of books, arts, paintings were lost just because of political instability and people not valuing these softer things such as poetry and art. And that is a brief history of the Dark Ages, the era before the Renaissance era. It's just good to have this stuff in mind so that we don't have too many gaps as we keep building up this timeline in music history, okay? So after the medieval era, we have the Renaissance era, and then it leads up to the Baroque era. So just keep those facts in mind. Do a little bit of research into the medieval era. Definitely a time for war. Pretty dark time, and the kind of time that makes you realize I'm happy to be living in the 21st century. All right, so now with the Middle Ages out of the way, let's go and familiarize ourselves with some of the modern day instruments that we have in the world. And let me see you there shortly.